Hey everyone, welcome to Ellis Mowers. I appreciate y'all watching the channel as always. It has been a few weeks since that golf cart was in. That was in the previous video. I've just had some time cleaning up things around here and doing other things. And fixing small things. I didn't really want a video. Don't care to video everything. But we are going to video this one. This is a wood chipper. It's a 5.5 horsepower yard machine's wood chipper. It's got the old Diaphragm style Briggs and Stratton engine on it. It's been sitting a while. It's a customer request to get going. Same guy who had that PYT 9000 Craftsman, and so we're going to see if we can get this thing going for him. Hopefully, just needs a diaphragm replacement, and we'll be back in business. We shall see. So let's go ahead and get started. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, Ellis at ellismowers.com, or at ellismowers09 on Instagram and Facebook. As always, we'll do a quick walk around to start. I have pulled it. It has compression and it kind of got some rust water out. This has got a bunch of plastic on it though, so this is a newer one. But it's still old enough to have the old flathead Briggs, which means it should be around early 2000s or so. So that's where we're at. I don't see. Well, it's on the engine shroud actually, 980813. So made 98. First two letters of the code, if you see that right there. Oil, have I checked the oil? I don't know if I have or not. Gas is pretty varnished. Oil is there. It's a little low. Actually, it looks fairly clean, so I may just be able to get by with topping it off. As y'all know, these things don't ever get any run hours in a homeowner use, so it's just been chilling for many, many years, I think, at this point. Got to air up the tires and things like that, but in essence, nothing too much. In order to access the diaphragm on this, I am going to have to take this exhaust shield off, and I think I might be able to get around not having to take the muffler off. We'll see. If I have to take the muffler off, it ain't that big of a deal. This thing has been kept up fairly well, and doesn't really need that much to get back going again, hopefully, just save for the carb diaphragm, save for the fact that the pickup tube isn't bad on it. So I'll take the air filter cover off. We'll get it out in the yard, see if it does have enough oomph to turn over at least, and then we will most likely go ahead and replace the carb diaphragm on this thing. If this is any indication as to how many hours it's got on it, this is basically disintegrated. However, it does show you that we're really doing pretty good when it comes to that. So we'll grab some carb spray, see if we can fire this thing off here. I mean, I highly doubt it's going to run on the gas that it's on, but hey, let's try it one more time before we break into it. Maybe it said once was enough. I'll try it a couple more times off camera, but I'll get it back in the garage and we'll put a diaphragm on it next. All right, time to get started. 5/16. Hope y'all like the lighting I've got going on here. I know it makes it a lot easier to work when it comes to doing videos. Honestly, didn't need to take that off, but it does give us better access to this carb. So we'll set that aside. And like I said, I'm going to take off this exhaust shield, which looks like it's got a 5/16 on the bottom here. That's a quarter, ain't it? It's a quarter. Oh, let's take that back. Man, this is an involved exhaust shield. Quarter, half, 3/8. I'll take that off, and then we'll get this diaphragm off. All right, so that exhaust shield was off by them 4 bolts. Now we're going to take this cover off here for the diaphragm, which I was able to get to all 4 screws. That 4th one's a little bit of a a little bit tight up there on the intake pipe. Just make sure you don't lose it. The 4 screws are here, there, and there. You can take this off if you need to. You can unbolt it by like a it's like a T25 Torx or something along those lines. On this model, some of them just have flat heads depending on how old they are. And we're just going to take a flathead screwdriver and do that right there. And I tell you what, I think we've found some issues here. Some varnish and gunk. The diaphragm obviously is beyond usable. It's fairly crispy. Varnish and stuff, and then we take the little washer here, little flat washer that holds the spring in. It's not the exact term, I know, but and that leaves us with this. So we've got this carb set up now. A little bit of varnish and stuff on the jet here. Actually, quite a bit. Get inside and see if y'all can see it a little bit better. So that hole right there is obviously supposed to be punched through, and we'll clean out this. We'll see if we can punch through this, and then we'll put a diaphragm in it and see if that does anything. And if it doesn't, then we'll just go ahead and I'll put fresh gas in it too. We'll see if that does anything, and if it does, good. If it doesn't, we'll go ahead and pull the carb and clean everything out. It's a little bit of not a complicated setup, it's just more involved to get one of these carbs off, unfortunately. So if we have to, great. Or if we don't have to, great. If we have to, we'll get it done. So let me poke a hole through that, see if I can get that clean with some carb spray and stuff, and then I'll show you the new diaphragm and when we put everything in here in just a minute. I'm hoping that I don't have to go into this, but you can kind of see I have the gas cap off currently and all the rust built up around it. At least there's no holes in the tank. You know, a lot of times that happens with these. So I have cleaned up this area here, sprayed some carb spray through it. It seems like it's getting gas down into the tank. Now, one of the tricky parts, one of my subscribers, Alejandro, said that a lot of times a good way to go about this is to actually put a feeler gauge in this situation. I have been able to do this before. We might be able to get lucky here. We have the new gasket. A lot of times what I do in this situation is, so we'll put this, it only goes one way. like that. And you're gonna have, let's see. So these are kind of a universal like gasket, I suppose you could say. So what happens is they're not an exact fit, but they work just fine. Like just like that, alright? So now what we'll do, like I said, it's a little bit of a challenge. I might see if I can tilt this engine forward a little bit too. See if it'll rest on the front of its engine here. Like this. That way what you're doing is gravity ain't working against you here. And got a little bit of gas leaking out, but that ain't no big deal. It's old anyways. Got a couple of these screws ready. What we're gonna do is just put the spring in, and the little washer goes on the outside. We're going to take our diaphragm and slide and push it in as well. And it'll lock down in there. There you go. And then you can kind of work the diaphragm around where you need it to go. Hopefully my head wasn't in the way. But just make sure your screws are in the right spot for your diaphragm, your screw holes. You can screw it down, tighten it up. Like I said, the screw holes don't exactly line up with this, mostly because, like I said, it's a universal gasket, so it'll fit many different applications. Some of these have the screws like here, and here, and here, and here, and not here, and so it's just kind of luck of the draw. I've used this application on many different fronts, like the universal ones. They seem to work fine. So we're going to put that in. Just like I said, just make sure your holes line up so that you're not tearing the gasket as you're screwing it in here, and that you don't cross thread, because it can be easy to cross thread things if you're not careful. And we'll get that done. And so we've got the diaphragm in now, so we should have pumping action, hopefully, as long as everything is in like it's supposed to be and nice and sealed up. Hopefully. You don't want to get them too tight because you don't want to cross thread them. So that's that. I know we got junk right here, but what I'm going to do is spray some carb spray in it, see if we can get it to fire again outside of the garage. So stay tuned. All right, let's see what we can do here. Poured some fresh gas in it. Kind of out of carb spray, but hopefully this will work. See, give it the best chance possible. So it's on. Throttle is on. Throttle's moving. So let's see. I don't think it's pumping anything yet. It did start right back up though, which is good. Alright, let's try it one more time. If we need to, we'll go into the big fix. See what looks like a little bit of pulsing under there because it's a little wet in there. Maybe wishful thinking though. If I could get it to pump up, that'd be awesome though. Pumping something, which is good. Oh, I don't want to have to take this carb off, but I might have to. Try a couple more times here on camera, see if I can do it. Alright, a couple more sprays, hopefully. Spray right there, too, hopefully. Alright. I'm sure we're flooding it, but... It's got a ton of stuff in the carb there. Yeah, this is gonna be I think this is gonna be a full clean out, guys. So let me go ahead and try a couple more times, and then we'll go ahead and get everything off and start cleaning it up. Of course, next startup. I think a lot of runtime may prevent me from having to do this. What I am going to do, I'm going to check the oil and everything because I don't want to mess it up and blow it up or anything like that. Add oil as necessary. There's a small pool of oil that came out of the spark plug, so I don't know. Spark plug is loose. That would explain a lot. So let me tighten the spark plug, check the oil, top it off if I need to. I'll revisit y'all here in just a second. We might have gotten lucky on this one, guys. I was thinking that I was probably going to have to go in the carb, but we may not. Alright guys, low oil, loose spark plug. Let's see if it'll roll now with tight spark plug and oil in it, or more oil in it at least. Might need some encouragement. Wants to. I think you just need some run time at this point. I think if I just let it run for a really long time, it'll purge itself out. Maybe even putting the air filter back on it will help it a little bit too. It's I'm kind of surprised, honestly. So let me put the air filter back on it and just let her run, see what happens. I'll get back up with y'all in just a few minutes. Alright guys, well this is a process. We're about to take this thing off. In this particular case, you can't really access, I want to take the exhaust off, so you can't really access the bottom exhaust bolt without taking off that little exhaust reducer, I guess you would say. So now we've got access to the bottom exhaust bolt, and all this is going to do, excuse me, is just give me better access to get to the carburetor and all that good stuff. Trying and doing things like getting the gas tank off and things along those lines. So exhaust is off. Next order of business is we want to get some of these torque screws off, which they're like T25s or something along those lines. Either T20s or T25s, I can't remember. Alright, looks like they're 20s, so we'll grab that. Get all these goodies off here. That's one. Two is up top. Lost my torque to the update. Your second one is up top here. Your third one is right here. And your fourth one is right there to get the torques off. And then I'll join y'all after that. So let me clarify here. There's a fifth one underneath here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fairly easy to take this off. After you take those two off right there, this will pop out of the choke, and then you can just bend the throttle linkage back in order to get it off. This governor linkage right here just slides out, and then you're pretty much left with that linkage right there, which is well, that may be the governor linkage, but y'all kind of get the point as to we got some linkages that we got to deal with here. So 5/16 gets that off. Underneath, we've got a 3/8 bolt under the bottom there to get the gas tank off. And then either 3/8 or like a T30 or something to get the 2 bolts off for the intake. We may be able to do this without having to take the gas tank off before taking the carb off here. We'll see. I'll let you know. Alright guys, so with those I got off with like a Torx, like I said, T27 worked fine. T30 works even better. Then I was able to pop this off, and then now I can remove. I'm trying not mess the gasket up here. But I don't have another mounting gasket. Man. Yeah, wow. So we're going to take off the intake tube and stuff like that here. If I can get it out of here. Man, look at that. That is just clogged to the nines. Yeah, we gotta do quite a bit of work here, y'all. There's literally like a rust. I don't even know how to describe it. It's a lot of rust. A lot. And then we've got the pickup tube down here. That screen has got a bunch of rust. I'm surprised it ran as good as it did after I threw a diaphragm in it. So, wow. Got a jet on this side, I think. So we'll look at that and a few other things. But I've got to get this tank off and wash it out or clean it or do something to it because it is nasty. So let me do that. That's a 3/8 on the bottom is the only thing holding it on. There is a wire that is a kill wire that I've got to take off down there as well. So let me do that, and I will join back with y'all here in just a second. Alright y'all, I'm going to see if I can do this to the best of my ability to show you. So there was this governor linkage. Whenever you take this off, you have a couple of ground straps, right? You have a ground strap you have to take off. the governor spring hooks on right here, and then on the back side of this linkage here, you have to take that off, and you also have to take this linkage off, either throttle or governor linkage. So just remember the orientation that it goes in. This little weird looking curved end goes on the bottom like so, and then it rides up on the gas tank. In terms of rust on the inside of the gas tank, this is just in the pickup area right here. So we have a lot of washing and cleaning, and I don't know what else to do here, but I'm going to go ahead and start taking care of that, as well as taking care of trying to get this carburetor clean again, both of which are going to be a little bit of a process. So I'm going to do that off camera. But you got your jets here. Probably take the diaphragm back off. We're going to clean this off and make sure it's not leaking out of the tube anywhere. Clean this pickup tube up. Probably throw it in the ultrasonic, truthfully. And see what we can do here, guys. This is rough. So, all said and done, we'll put it back together. Hopefully we'll have something that will run good for us. We are on the next day. And what I did, I just let this thing sit in this ultrasonic cleaner all night. I let it run through a couple of cycles, and pardon the dirty pizza pan, I know. But look how clean it ended up getting. I almost wish I could stick that gas tank in the ultrasonic too. But all the passages are clean, free and clear. This even cleaned up really nice. I didn't even do anything to that, and it just melted everything off. We have our jet here, which I'll make sure that is clean on the end there as well. I'll go ahead and put the diaphragm back in it, just like I did earlier in the video, and I'll meet you when I get the gas tank and all that back there. I'll do my best to show you all how I put everything back together. Alright guys, I gave this tank a good just washing. As you can see, the rust buildup is a lot less. I don't think I'm ever going to get it. Once these tanks start rusting, there's really no ever getting them to not rust anymore. But it's in a lot better shape. I understand the gasket's bad too. Perfect world, I'd have another gasket to use on this. But this just seals kind of the gas from coming out of it. So as long as it's not leaking gas, we're going to be fine. I have a bucket of parts here from where I took them all off. Gas tank and a carburetor and some warm sunshine on this cold day. I'm going to get these things together and see how it all shakes out here. I did leave all the stuff kind of where it needed to be. Got a couple of governor and throttle linkages right here. Remember that thick one, the weird end goes on the bottom, pushing up towards the carburetor. I'll get everything back together because that's probably the best way, and I will show you how everything looks, and we'll go from there. Tell you what, let me do the gas tank first. Let me get the gas tank mounted back on, and then before I put the carb on, I'll show you what the mounting points on the gas tank and everything look like. Gas tank is on. We're about to throw the carb on it here. I wanted to show you how it all goes together here. You have that one bolt down in the bottom. That mounts the bottom of the gas tank. The top is mounted via the carb intake there. You have that ground strap, at least on this application. Your application may be a little bit different. And then governor spring goes around the little tab thing that I showed you. And then I brought it on from the underside back onto the throttle linkage. And then I put the throttle linkage on funny side down. And then the side that's got just the little insert on it comes up top. I also put the little 90 here on this linkage as well for the, I don't think I have it on correctly, but for the carburetor. You don't have to do that, but that's the one that the 90 goes on there. If anybody knows why, I put the sponge back in here too. If anybody knows why that sponge is there, please let me know. I think it may just be to keep the gas splashing all around in this area. I can't think of any other reason because it doesn't filter the fuel. Didn't really know of a good way to clean that, so I did just let it air dry out in the sun for the day before I put it back in there. So I will put the carb on, I'll show you that, and then we will hopefully be done with this thing. So before you put any of your bolts in, I want to show you what we got. So don't forget that diaphragm, put that back in, make sure that it is good to go probably before you put the carb back on. But here's all your linkages. So this linkage hooks up to the choke arm right here. You have a throttle linkage arm that hooks right inside this throttle linkage, and then that fat linkage that has that little rod looking thing on the, or that little hole on the top, just pops right into that plastic clip there, if you can see that. And then what else do we have? And then here's your linkage set up here for the throttle and governor, or for your throttle. I think the thick one's the governor linkage, with how that goes in there. So that's the way it goes. The little long end on the top, the short end kind of on the side. And you clip that in first before screwing that back in, and then we put this throttle setup back on. Put the choke on, and then kind of twist it down and put the throttle rod in that little groove. So we should have it all back in place. Remember to put your jet back into the carburetor as well right there, in addition to the diaphragm, either before you put all this back together, ideally before you even put it on the back on the machine. So given that, let's go ahead and put the bolts back on. Yeah, let's put the bolts back on. So let me do that. I'll be right back, as well as the exhaust. So quick update. Much easier to keep these two off while you get the bottom intake bolt in. Get your intake bolts in, and then put your exhaust back on so that you have better access, you see. And then I got the exhaust on, then I put the breather tube in and that screw, and then those two screws after I got the intake bolt back on, put this linkage back on. That's the easiest way I found. I'm in the process of putting the bracket back on. We'll put some gas in it and get this thing cruising here before long, which would leave me only a pull rope to do as long as everything works here. Okay, let's give it a shot. I think we might get relatively lucky here. So there's really no reason why it shouldn't run. One thing I do check before I put the carb back together is to make sure that intake tube doesn't have a split in it, and it was free and clear, which was good. It had sprayed all the way up without any leaks. So let's see if it'll start. It will take a few pulls to get the gas up though. I want it to start on its own. Come on, you know you want to. Alright, let me see what's going on here and I'll get right back with you. Alright, let's see if we can get some gas moving by giving it a couple of starts here with the carb spray. It's not pulling the gas up for some reason. Now it is, but well, of course, we've got the gasket issue. Oh, man. I was going to be able to get away with that, but obviously I'm not. That's coming out of the gasket body itself right there, not the diaphragm, so that's not good. But it will run now, so that's good. It is getting gas, so I want to see where it's coming from real quick. Oh. Man, this thing is just, thing just doesn't want to play nice, does it? Guess I'll have to get that gasket there. At least I don't have to take the gas tank off. I do need to take the carburetor back off though. It really stinks. So you can see it just hemorrhaging. I'm going to check and see what I have here at home. I might have a gasket. If I do, we'll throw it on there. Well, I got the carb off again, and this was my culprit. Some of the gasket material, because I was like, man, that mounting gasket would not leak fuel that bad, and it was only leaking when it was pumping. That did it. Somehow it got up under there in between the diaphragm and this mounting plate, and that was what was that should be what was causing all my leaking and stuff. I guess it just somehow got in there. Yeah. So I'll brush this off, put it back together, and see if that fixes it, as well as I'm going to brush a little bit of this varnish and stuff off of here. Because it was working for the moment, but it was pouring. As soon as it started pumping, it was pouring it out of this. So that explains it. Let me get it back on. We'll try it one more time. Well, I looked at the videos and stuff, and I realized that we're almost at an hour. So where I left y'all off, I really don't even remember. But I did clean out the tank here once, put on diaphragm and stuff, and it was leaking out the side here, right? So what it is, I bought a new gasket for the gas tank. I did not want to buy a new carburetor, but I ended up buying one. because you get the gasket, the carburetor, and all that for like, I think I got it for like $12 or $13, when the gasket alone would probably be almost that much. So, new gasket, new carb, swapped those out, ran for about a minute, still had issues. Issue ended up being that even when I washed out the tank, what happened was it got varnish down into the bottom, so it just kind of liquefied all that rust and varnish and created a huge layer all over everything. And so what I did yesterday is I took some Simple Green and let it sit overnight in this tank, and then I sprayed it out today and got a bunch of chunks and stuff out, and it seems to be okay now. So I ran it earlier, we'll see if it runs now, and we'll wrap this video up. I did put a pull rope on it as well. This one was a little bit of a challenge. Also, those sponges, I'll go and get those sponges here in a second, and I'll let that be open-ended as what y'all think I should do with them. But yeah, let me get this thing started here for you. It even idles now some. It still could be a little better, but alright guys, so here are those sponges. I think I would love for somebody who knows more about these things than me. Tell me what these are. I think I mentioned earlier in the video, I think they help keep the splash away from the top of the gas tank and the carburetor and stuff. This thing runs fine without them. These things over time will start disintegrating and stuff like that, and they hold varnish, so I think I'm just going to leave them without at this point. It doesn't affect the running capability of the wood chipper. I do know that much. Like I said, I think it's more so to keep varnish and stuff, or not keep varnish, but keep the splashing down in the tank. But I feel like in this case it would do more harm than good to put them back in, because that just is another place for that varnish. Even though you can still see, even though I kind of cleaned them in the ultrasonic with the Simple Green, that they've still got a bunch of varnish and stuff. I try not to open up another can of worms when it comes to that. But we got everything back on, new pull rope, and I think it's ready to go back. I'm gonna let it sit a couple days and make sure it starts on its own. But sorry to drag y'all along, but the lesson learned here is take your time, number one, and number two, do everything humanly possible to get as much rust as possible out of these tanks when they start rusting. Otherwise, you're just going to have a nightmare. Literally, the varnish layer was probably like that thick. It felt like it was an 1/8 or 1/4 inch thick at the bottom of the tank, number one, and at the little carb bowl where the pickup tube is. Just instantly stopped it up. So a little bit more work. This thing is done now, thankfully, and will be sent back to the customer here in a couple of days. So thank you all again for watching. Sorry to drag this one out so long, but I do appreciate all the support, and I know I learned a lesson, and I hope y'all learned a lesson as well. So if you have any questions, reach out to me, Ellis at ellismowers.com, or at ellismowers09 on Instagram and Facebook. I'll catch you on the next video. See you then.